April 12th, 2013. I've always considered myself very logical. I never put myself in uncomfortable situations, nor do I let emotions get the best of me. It wasn't until today where I felt the stable structure of my mind shift a bit. It was all because of her. I'm sure of it. I only saw her for a brief moment in the crowded hallway of my school, but what I did see was enough to make my heart skip a beat. She was of average height, standing at what appeared to be 5'4". With each step she took, the curls in her short brown hair would bounce ever so slightly, as if they were in a Renaissance dance. The purple frame of her glasses reflected the light of the fluorescent bulbs in the ceiling, giving off a faint yet distinctive glow. Behind the glasses were eyes of the softest shade of brown that could warm the heart of the coldest and most calculative of men. The bright floral pattern of her dress stood out from the crowd of bland and unoriginal styles, beckoning my eyes to fall upon the goddess-like figure that the tight fabric was covering. Her head turned in my direction, and she flashed me a welcoming smile, showing off her perfect white teeth. In the same amount of time I saw her, she disappeared from my line of sight. I looked behind me to see if I could find her again, but she was gone, probably somehow blending in with the crowd. I haven't been able to think of anything since, which explains this journal entry. It's amazing to think that it took this girl only 1 second to destroy the mental barriers I set up to keep everyone out. She was able to enter my mind with ease and infect the temptation-free psyche of my brain. I must know more about this girl. A person with that much of an effect on me must surely be worth my time. April 17th, 2013. Over the course of the last few school days, I've been able to learn more about the girl from a while ago. Her name is Helena, and by how others treated her while we were talking, it didn't seem like she had any friends. Other students would point in our direction and would laugh while others gave us weird looks. Helena told me that this was because she had recently moved into town and was the new student of our school. I don't have any friends because I find that they only get in the way of my studies. However, Helena seemed different. She and I are a lot alike, so I decided to take her under my wing. At lunch, I brought her to the spot I normally go, a deserted stairwell on the south wing of the school. We sat down and talked about whatever Helena wanted. I tried to ask about where she used to live, but she kept telling me she was uncomfortable with that. All she could say was that her old neighborhood was gloomy with no fun to be had. She had never been in a relationship either, as they would only get in the way of her musical hobbies. That got my attention. She plays the electric bass and has even written a few of her own songs. What I found interesting was that what she has done is something that I've always been meaning to do. I told her about it and she smiled, saying that she would help me make that dream a reality someday. She then gathered her stuff to get a head start on getting to class. As I got up as well to walk her there, she said she could do it on her own and left, but not without kissing me on my left cheek as she left. I rubbed the cheek she kissed, my face began to blush and the smile slowly grew on my face. That was the first time in my life that I'd felt like that before. My heart still flutters as I merely write about her, and for once, I can't wait to see someone at school tomorrow. I'm excited to see Helena again. April 18th, 2013. Helena and I hung out once again at lunch today. We talked about her music and that was about it. She seemed very interested in my views of humanity, as they were similar to her own. Nothing especially exciting happened today other than her kissing me on the cheek again. My attraction to her grows every day. I can feel it. Why is it now that my emotions are suddenly in control of my thoughts? I told my family about Helena tonight during dinner, as my mother was wondering why I would stare into space frequently. She was happy that I finally found a girl that made me feel amazing. Even my father, who was normally against dating at my age, was pleased to hear that someone at school was able to break down my mental walls. I smiled as I got my parents' full approval on the girl. Now I can execute my master plan, asking her to be my girlfriend. Fingers crossed it'll go well. May 3rd, 2013. Lately I haven't been able to write into my journal because I've been busy spending time with someone. My girlfriend, Helena. I asked her out on April 21st, and she accepted my offer to start a relationship by kissing me on the lips with a passion I've never experienced before. These past few weeks have opened my eyes to a world I've never seen or heard of, a world of purity and wonder. My logical way of thinking have made way for my emotions to take charge. Everyone still gives me odd looks from time to time, probably because I'm in love with the new girl on the block. This weekend I'm bringing Helena over to meet my parents. She's been dying to meet them since we started dating. I'm curious to find out how that will go. She's a fantastic girl, so I can see there being no problems. May 5th, 2013. Helena arrived at my house shortly after 4 today. I let her into the house and brought her to the kitchen where my parents were. My father was reading the newspaper while my mother was doing work on the family laptop. I attempted to introduce Helena to my parents, but all they did was look at us for a brief moment and go back to what they were previously doing. I asked my parents to at least greet our guest, but they simply ignored me. Unfortunately, this always happens when I have friends over. When I was a little kid, I would invite some friends over, and my parents ignored us for a while until they finally decided to talk to the guest I brought over. I turned my back on my parents to bring Helena to my room, but my mother began to talk to us. "Oh, so you're Helena," she said in an energetic tone of voice. "Our son has said so much about you. He's a keeper, I'll tell you that much. Just make sure he washes his face every day. He doesn't do that too often." I asked my mother to stop, and Helena began to laugh to herself. My mother looked to my father, who then put down his newspaper to talk to Helena a little. "So how much did Martin pay you to come over?" My father always made jokes like that whenever I bring friends over. I rolled my eyes as Helena laughed a little more. She said that she came on her own free will and wanted to meet them. "Pardon me?" my father replied. "She said she's very glad to meet you, Dad," I said to him. "Oh, my apologies. My hearing isn't as good as it used to be." After that, I brought Helena to my room, where we got the chance to talk to each other alone. We had a good conversation, despite the fact that we could clearly hear my parents talking to one another from the kitchen. Sadly, they weren't saying very positive things. "I hate doing that, Maria. Why do we have to do it? It's just a phase, Angelo. He'll grow out of it, and you'll get used to it. For his sake, let's hope it's a phase. I don't know if I can take much more of this." May 30th, 2013. After having Helena over for dinner a few more times, my parents still insisted on continuing their dumb little joke. Helena didn't seem to mind, but I was very annoyed. However, today was different. When I got home, my parents were sitting in the kitchen waiting for me. They asked me to sit down so they could talk to me about something rather important. My mother told me that they're only saying this because they care about me and want what's best for me, which is the same line she always uses before talking about something serious, such as my antisocial behaviour, or the fact they thought I was a drug addict. My father cut her off, saying that they wanted me to break things off with Helena. I stood up in disbelief. How dare they say I end things with the love of my life? My mother told me to sit down so they could explain themselves. Reluctantly, I followed her orders. My father told me that they didn't want me to be dating a bad influence. He went on to explain the fact that they had noticed odd habits that have started to develop in me. He told me that since we began to see each other, I've been starting to talk to myself in a mumbled tone from time to time. The more disturbing part is that the mumblings are always about Helena. They think she's doing something to me, possibly have me ingest drugs without me knowing, and turning me into a nervous wreck. I told him that Helena would never do such a thing, and that we love each other. Mother told me that she understands where I'm coming from, but she continued to say that this kind of relationship isn't healthy for me. I stood up and told my parents the way I saw it. I am in a relationship with the girl of my dreams, and nothing that they could say would change that. I stormed off to my room and have been here since. This all probably sounds like mumbling. To hell with them for all I care. June 19th, 2013. I've been beginning to notice a few things that have been happening to me recently. Not only do my hands twitch occasionally, but I feel like I'm losing myself somehow. I have a tough time finding the right words to use every so often. I'm sure it's nothing too serious. I probably just need some sleep. July 6th, 2013. To my parents' dismay, I'm still with Helena. However, they seem to have gotten more accepting to the concept of our love. I'll take whatever straws I can grab at this point. Today they even offered me to drive me to Helena's for the day. Apparently my mother talked to Helena's parents and they wanted to see me today. I smiled faintly, pleased that my parents are over the fact that Helena could possibly be a bad influence. They dropped me off in front of a lovely little house in the middle of a suburban neighbourhood. The house was white, with dark blue borders around the doors and window frames. It was almost painful to look at, as a bright white shade of the door and house almost blinded me. My eyes readjusted, so I looked at the house and I could look at the house and see all the details. It was a cozy two-story house with enough space to hold 4 family members. Perhaps Helena had siblings she never told me about. I walked up to the house and she knocked on the door. A few moments later, an older man answered the door. He appeared to be in his mid-50s, his hair greying and his face sporting a fatherly moustache. He wore a plaid button-up shirt that was tucked into his jeans. He looked at me and gave me a friendly smile. "Ah, you must be Martin Watson. It's a pleasure to meet you, son," he said as he shook my hand violently. He let me into the house, telling me that Helena was in her room, which was the last door to the right in the hallway. I was on my way to her room when something came out of the bathroom, wrapped their eyes around me, shouting, "Boo!" I jumped and was scared until I realized my assailant was none other than Helena. She looked at me while laughing, saying that I'm such a scaredy cat. I turned around and began to play fight with her, and we came to a truce with a tender kiss. Nothing important truly happened until we sat down and ate dinner. 4 plates were set on the round wooden table, one for Helena, one for her mother, one for her, and one for me. They served the make-it-yourself burrito dinner because Helena is a vegetarian, so they had a separate bowl for the meat. That would explain why she didn't eat much when she would come over. Her mother had long curly hair, which is where I assume Helena got hers from. Some of her black bangs covered her large eyeglasses, which distracts you from the slight wrinkles forming on her face. She was slightly shorter than me, but she had a big enough voice to compensate for that. She sat across from me, and Helena's father was to my left. It was quiet until I began a conversation. "So," I asked both her parents, "where do you two work?" I work as a neuroscientist," the father replied. "You know, studying on how the brain works and why we do the things we do." "I am a psychiatrist," Helena's mother said as soon as her husband had finished. "I work with people who have mental issues such as anxiety and depression." I nodded politely and took a bite of my burrito. Those were some intense jobs for seemingly ordinary people. I began to tell them about myself, my commitment to school, among other things such as my family. Helena's mother asked me to talk about my relationship with her daughter. I was a bit taken off guard. Did Helena not talk to them about me? That could be it, since her father knew her father knew exactly who I was when he answered the door. Shaking it off, I began to explain to her my relationship with Helena. "It's wonderful. To be honest, she's the reason I was able to tear down my mental walls. She's a great listener, she cares a lot for me, and she accepts me for who I really am." I took Helena's hand in mine. "She's the best thing to have ever happened to me." Her mother and father looked at each other, then turned to me and smiled. "Well," her mother said, "I'm glad you two are happy." July 24th, 2013. My parents have been asking how Helena and I have been. I keep telling them that we're doing great, but every time I do, they seem disappointed. Maybe it's just my mind messing with me. They're my parents, and they want to see me enjoy myself. It would make no sense for them to be disappointed that my girlfriend and I are doing well. It must be my mind playing tricks on me. August 1st, 2013. Helena's parents invited me to dinner. It was very nice of them, that's for sure. While eating, they asked me how Helena and I met. I told them we first saw each other in the halls on April 12th, which Helena said happened to be her birthday. We only exchanged glances though. I told them. Her father seemed very interested, and her mother simply smiled sweetly and nodded. April 9th, 2013. I took Helena out on a date today. I brought her to the restaurant my parents always took me to when I was a kid. She seemed to enjoy it a lot. We shared a cheese pizza and it was delicious. She also looked amazing today, wearing the same dress she wore on the first day I saw her. It was a wonderful night, and I'm glad I got to spend it with a wonderful girl. August 27th, 2013. My mother heard me talking to Helena today while she was over to see me for a while. She walked into my room and saw the two of us sitting on my bed talking about whatever was on our minds. She only looked at us for a few moments before bursting into tears and running out of my room. After Helena left, my father asked for me into the kitchen. He told me that I had to end things with Helena as soon as possible since it's been upsetting him and my mother. I looked to him in the eyes and said it wasn't going to happen anytime soon. He demanded I do, but I retaliated by questioning why he was asking me to do this. "You want to know? I'll tell you why. It's because..." He stopped mid-sentence and sat down in his chair silently. He said that he couldn't say and told me to go to my room. Just what was that all about? Why did he stop himself? This doesn't make any sense. Things haven't been adding up lately. September 2nd, 2013. Today was our first day back to school. I met all my new teachers and I met up with Helena in the halls. We were talking about our new classes when other students began to mock us. They weren't even hiding the fact that they were. They pointed and laughed at us. After a whole lunch hour of constant teasing, I finally had enough. I stood up and smacked the kid leading the taunting across his face with my fist, knocking him to the ground. Everyone looked at us in shock, and I began to yell at the student I just hit. How dare you make fun of us like that? Grow up and leave us alone. I grabbed Helena's wrist and stormed out the cafeteria where we were having lunch. When I got home from school, my parents demanded to know why they got an email explaining that I got suspended at school for a week. I told them it was because people were making fun of Helena and I during lunch. I went to my room and slammed the door. I'd rather stay at home anyways than go to school again. September 23rd, 2013. I'm beginning to get very concerned about Helena. Lately her mood has been shifting constantly. One day she's her normal self, the next she's quite sad, and the day after she's very upbeat. She's never had these mood swings before, so why has it been happening all of a sudden? She didn't begin to show odd behaviour until the day I met her family. Perhaps that has something to do with it. Do her parents not like me or something? Whatever the case may be, I want Helena to be happy, and I'll do whatever it takes to do just that for her. October 12th, 2013. I went over to Helena's house as a surprise today. She seemed much happier, but maybe it was the fact that I came over without her knowing. I gave her 6 roses to represent the amount of months we've been together. She put them on her desk and hugged me tight. She then released herself from my grasp and ran down the hallway, giggling to herself. I followed her around the house and eventually made it to her father's office downstairs. I didn't know where Helena went off to, and I thought she may have hidden herself somewhere in there. I began to look for her. There weren't many places to hide, but I checked each spot and I couldn't find Helena. However, I did notice multiple sheets of paper on her father's desk. Most of them were irrelevant, like family reminders and grocery lists. What interested me the most was the notepad next to the keyboard for the computer. I picked it up and flipped through the pages. It appeared to be filled with notes concerning something for his work. I began to read some of the notes. July 9th, 2013. The subject appears to be in bad condition. This should have been brought to our attention sooner. August 16th, 2013. The subject's symptoms are getting worse. I hope it doesn't progress, otherwise it could lead to something very serious. August 29th, 2013. We've been conducting more interactive experiments rather than observing. We won't get anything done by standing around and watching. We need to get more involved with the subject. Otherwise, our whole cause will be wasted. September 5th, 2013. Our subject is getting violent. We've managed to calm it down, but we feared it will retaliate again if we don't carefully manage it. September 13th, 2013. Funding for our research is gradually decreasing. The ones who asked us to start the project aren't seeing results fast enough, and are growing impatient. If they don't get what they want soon, I fear our research will have to end. We need to get results as soon as possible. I would have read more, but I heard Helena's father walking down the hallway. I put the notepad down and ran out of the office as fast as I could. Fortunately, he didn't see me. I saw Helena waiting for me on the top of the stairs. She smiled and extended her arms towards me, pulling me in close for a hug. Even though I wanted to, I didn't tell her about what I saw in her father's office. I didn't want to worry her. October 26th, 2013. More strange things have been happening to me. I've become more anxious and jittery, something that has never happened to me before. Not only that, but my parents have noticed me sleepwalk and heard me have nightmares from their room. The worst part of all this is that those nightmares and sleepwalking incidents have all been about the same thing, Helena. I didn't tell them that detail though, as it will only make them want me to end things with her sooner. October 29th, 2013. I approached my parents today about my night terrors. I thought it was time that they knew what was going on. They seemed to be worried yet understanding. They asked if they could help in any way, and I told them what they could do. I want you to tell me why dating Helena is a bad idea. That might help my mind rest. The two of them looked at each other and nodded slightly. My mother told me the same excuse as before, that she was a bad influence on me. Not that again. I slammed my hands against the table. I need to know. Tell me! My father grabbed me by the shoulders and shook me, shouting at me that they can't tell me, as there are personal reasons that they can't share. Frustrated, I stormed to my room and slammed the door. November 16th, 2013. Helena's father is becoming more and more stressed lately. When you ask him about what's wrong, he says that it's nothing. He doesn't know that I'm aware of the reason he's become upset. His lack of finances for whatever he's doing at work. I kept my mouth shut, however. I don't want to upset anyone by letting that information slip out. Besides, Helena seems to have enough to worry about with her mood swings and such. December 3rd, 2013. I took Helena on a surprise date tonight. With all the crazy things going on lately, we need to get away and just spend time together. I packed my backpack packed with dinner and a blanket so we could have a picnic in the park and go stargazing. Long story short, it was an amazing night, though I don't think any of those stars could compare to this shine in Helena's eyes. December 25th, 2013. Helena came over unexpectedly today. She showed up and wished me a Merry Christmas, and even though there wasn't any mistletoe, she brought me in close for a kiss. She didn't bring a present, and she felt bad for not being able to give me one. I told her she didn't have to give me one, since her being with me is a gift all on its own. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and walked home. I was about to invite her in, but I guess she had other things to do with her family today. After all, it is Christmas. I do appreciate her coming to visit, though. It really made my day even better. January 9th, 2014. I went over to Helena's house today. She said she needs some comforting because she felt terrible, so I made her tea and cuddled with her on her bed. She curled up close to me and we sat in silence for a good 10 minutes or so until she finally said something softly. "I'm scared, Martin." I looked at her with great concern. I held her tightly and asked her why she was frightened. "I never told you this, but there are these bad people, and they've been doing these terrible things to me." I sat up in horror. Someone was traumatizing her? That would explain the mood swings that she's been having. Those must be a result of her being tortured by these people. If that's the case, then those entries in her father's journal could have been about her. She continued to talk. "You see, I never told you this because I didn't want you to worry. These people, Martin, have been trying to get rid of me." "What? No, this can't be. Helena, I have to do something. I need to show you something right now." I got off the bed to bring Helena to her father's office, but she stopped me before I could leave her room. "I would watch my step if I were you." She came in closer to my ear to whisper something. "They're watching us." I felt a chill run down my spine. They were watching us? How long were they there? Where are they? Who are they? Every room in this house has been bugged with microphones and cameras. They see everything we do and hear everything we say. They were set up a few days before you first came over. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to be scared. Please forgive me, but I had to keep this a secret from you for your own good. I felt myself begin to choke up. Why didn't Helena tell me this before? Was there more information she was hiding from me? I fell to my knees and did something I haven't done in years. I cried. Helena knelt down and held me, telling me everything would be okay. I didn't believe her, but I guess I have to for now. January 23rd, 2014. I've been getting more and more paranoid lately, regardless if I'm in Helena's house or not. I constantly look behind my back when walking down the street and get anxious when strangers get close to me. It's getting harder for me to sleep at night because I fear someone is staring at me, watching my every move. This is driving me crazy. I need answers, and I need them now. February 2nd, 2014. Helena's father has been getting less stressed, however he is getting more worried. At the dinner table he had to leave because he didn't feel well. His work must be catching up to him, I guess. I waited until after dinner to go to his office to see what was going on. Sure enough, I found more information in his journal. October 3rd, 2013. Our suppliers are getting anxious. They say we aren't doing our job well enough. To hell with them, I say. They can do their own damn experiment and see what's at stake for themselves. October 12th, 2013. I'm worried that someone has been going through my notes. They seem to have been moved somehow when I went to check on something in the house. If someone else knows about what we're doing, this could mean the end for our research. I began to look around me. This entry must have been made the day I found his notepad. I hoped he didn't know I was here. I had to keep reading and see if I could find anything else. December 21st, 2013. Our subject seems to be warming up to us more. This is excellent. This could help us in the long run. January 2nd, 2014. It appears that the subject is still in its own little world. This whole time we've been trying to make it snap out of it, yet it doesn't listen. It seems we've gone in a circle and are back to the beginning. January 24th, 2014. The subject is getting fearful. It seems to be getting more self-aware of its situation and is beginning to isolate itself from us. We need to gain its trust again somehow. If that doesn't work, we'll have to resort to more drastic measures. I couldn't believe it. Helena's father is conducting some kind of sick experiment that is completely classified to everyone else. I felt bad for the subject. Its life may be at risk just so Helena's father can keep a job. February 10th, 2014. I've been thinking more about the last few note entries I've read from the notebook, along with what Helena said to me about a month ago. When I can't sleep, it's all I think about in a struggle to piece everything together, thinking about the dates that the journal entries were entered, along with the days I found information for myself and things Helena told me. Then that should indicate... No, that can't be right. They must have some sort of meaning. Wait, could Helena be the subject? I mean, the dates seem to add up, but there's no evidence that it's her. Regardless, maybe I should talk to Helena about it. She might have more answers than me. February 11th, 2014. I told Helena everything I knew about the cameras, her father and the experiments. She simply laughed and seemed amused. She told me that there's no way her father is behind the plot to get rid of her, as that would be ridiculous. I needed to show her all the things I found in her father's office, but her father has been staying at home for the past while instead of going to work, and there's no way I can get to his office without the possibility of getting caught by him. I need to wait for now and gather more evidence. I merely shook it off like I was making a joke. February 15th, 2014. I got the flu yesterday, but the symptoms hit me hard this morning. Both my parents had to go to work today, which meant I was home alone to take care of myself. It was bad enough I was sick, but now I had to make sure I didn't get any worse condition. What a big task it seemed like. It was around lunchtime when I heard a knocking at my door. I gathered enough energy to answer it and saw Helena smiling wide at my doorstep. My spirits were lifted and I felt a little better. I let her in and said she heard I was sick. Since you live so close to the school, she said with her usual joyful tone of voice, I thought I might as well come by and see how you're feeling. I smiled faintly at her as she asked me to sit down so she could make me some lunch. I sat on the couch patiently, and about 7 minutes later, a grilled cheese sandwich was placed in front of me. The bread was burned a bit, so I tried scraping some off, dear. Hopefully you don't mind. I didn't mind at all. On the top slice of bread was a big heart carved into the burnt spot. I smiled and told her she did a great job. I began to eat my lunch as Helena sat next to me and cuddled close until it was time for her to leave. March 3rd, 2014. I went to school today and I didn't see Helena at all. Usually we meet up so we can have lunch together, but she wasn't at her usual spot when I went to check. Hopefully she didn't catch the same illness I did. March 11th, 2014. After her being absent at school for a week or so, I finally saw Helena today at school. It was like my heart leapt out of my chest when I found her. I ran and gave her the biggest hug I'd ever given anyone. She giggled and said that she only went away for a week. She didn't understand how much I missed her. I don't think she ever will. I love her so much, and the last thing I want is to be away from her. March 17th, 2014. I got invited to dinner by Helena. I joyfully accepted and we had a fantastic dinner at her home. After the meal, I snuck my way downstairs to her father's office to see if I could find more information about his experiment. However, he was already down there talking on the phone with someone. I hid behind a corner and eavesdropped on the conversation. I know it's taking longer than expected, but this is a serious case. Yes, I'm aware of how long it's been going on for. Listen to me, okay? If the subject learns of what's going on too quickly... No, I will not stop saying subject. It's the appropriate term. Regardless, if it learns about all this information at once, that will cripple its psyche and in turn... I understand. We'll discuss the plan of attack soon. Talk to you then. Good day to you. He hung up the phone and I hurried my way up the stairs. Who was he talking to? Whoever it was, it must have something to do with the wiretaps in the house. I must learn more. March 24th, 2014. Helena has been acting very strange. I've been talking to her and sometimes she won't even reply. She looked at me with a glazed look in her eyes, standing there without moving a muscle. This is happening very, very frequently and I'm getting a bad feeling about it. Perhaps she's really is the subject her father has been talking about. Maybe this odd behavior coincides with the experiments he's doing. Only one way to find out, I guess. April 12th, 2014. Helena asked me if I wanted to stay the night at her house. My parents allowed it and I got my things ready to go to her house. After our usual dinner and some cuddling in her room, we got ready for bed and Helena fell asleep next to me, her arms resting over my chest. I could only lay there. I couldn't sleep knowing that someone was watching us. Ever since Helena told me that there were cameras everywhere, I've been wary of what I do everywhere I go, her house especially. Looking to see if Helena was fast asleep, I snuck my way from her room to downstairs, where her father's office is. I opened the door silently. I noticed that the computer was on its screensaver and the lights were on. He must have gone to the bathroom, I thought to myself. Looking around, I couldn't find his notebook. I began to search frantically for it, as he may have put it in a hiding spot. While searching, my arm nudged the mouse on the computer, just enough to boot it up. I looked at the monitor in horror. On the screen were multiple different video feeds of what seemed like the inside of a house. I didn't think much of it until I saw the disturbing truth of the matter. One of the feeds showed Helena sleeping peacefully in her bed. As I looked at the feed, my mind began making conclusions for itself. There's no way she could be the test subject, right? She even said herself that her father could never do terrible things to her. Or could he? I didn't have much time to react as I heard a toilet flush from down the hall. I ran out there quickly and returned to Helena's room to make it look like nothing happened. I made it look like I was sleeping even though I couldn't, knowing that a twisted man was watching his own daughter sleep at night. April 7th, 2014. I began to think of a way I could tell Helena everything about her father and have her believe me. Unfortunately, I can't just go up to her saying, "Your father watches you sleep at night," without looking like a complete lunatic. Even with this in mind, I set it aside as it's Helena's birthday soon, in 5 days in fact. If I want to give her the best day ever, I'll have to tell her after April 12th. That way, my assumptions are kept away for her long enough for her to enjoy her day. As an early birthday present, I brought Helena to where our first date was. We ordered the same thing, a cheese pizza, and had an amazing time. She looked absolutely beautiful, taking my attention away from the world and leading my eyes to meet with hers. She sweetly smiled and began to speak. "This is very sweet of you, Martin," she said with her loving voice. The sound of it made my heart melt. "Hey, it's the least I could do," I replied. "I mean, you've managed to spend almost a year with me, and after all, she laughed at my remark as she put her hand in mine and held it tightly. "In all seriousness, though," I continued, "you do deserve it. You're the best girl I know, and I couldn't ask for anyone better than you, Helena." She smiled and blushed, making her face glow a bright shade of red. It was adorable. Heck, everything about her is adorable. No other guy would have ever done this for me, and it's so great that you did, Helena said softly. "I've had an amazing time with you tonight, and in our relationship as a whole. I love you so much, Martin." My eyes began to mist over as I used the napkin to clear my vision. I can't believe I've almost spent a year with this wonderful girl. I love her with all my heart and soul, and in 2 days I will get the chance to show her just how much she means to me. April 12th, 2014. I made my way to Helena's house at around noon. I became very nervous as I didn't want to mess up her special day. My parents went to work in the morning, so I had to take a bus to her home. When I finally made it there, I put her present under my arm and knocked on the door. What caught me off guard was that the door was already unlocked and slightly open, so when I knocked on it, it opened all the way. Cautiously, I entered the house and called out to see if anyone was home, and if everyone was okay, just in case if it was a robbery or something. I heard Helena's father call back, saying that everyone was in the kitchen. I quietly took off my shoes and ran up to the stairs. When I entered the kitchen, I saw some people I wasn't expecting. Sitting at the dinner table were Helena's mother and father, but across from them were my parents. I thought that they were at work, but perhaps they wanted to surprise me by coming out to celebrate Helena's birthday. I greeted everyone and asked where the birthday girl was. "Martin," my mother said softly, "about Helena." My body tensed up and I became very worried. What happened to her? My father asked me to take a seat at the head of the table. In shaky movements, I pulled out the chair and sat down, anticipating terrible news. "There's something we need to know, Martin," Helena's father began to speak with a strong voice. "You were brought here for a specific reason. It was so we could watch her interactions with Helena. We had to keep it a secret as to not startle you, and—" "What are you talking about, old man?" I lashed out. "You mean this whole place was just a cell for Helena? Just what the hell is going on here?" "Martin, calm down," my mother said sweetly. "You need to settle so we can tell you." "Tell me what, Mom? That Helena was just an experiment? That her family only saw her as a test subject? Mom, don't you realize that this research was funded illegally?" "We were the ones who funded this research," my father said sternly. "It was for your own good." He lowered his head, staring at the ground. My eyes began to drown in the tears streaming down my face. My own parents funded the research that harmed my sweet Helena. You're the ones who gave him the money to hurt Helena? I could barely form a sentence without choking up. Each word becoming a struggle as my throat tightened. I could no longer see as my eyes were clouded by the tears forming my eyes. There was a specific reason for it, Martin, Helena's mother replied. She knew too? Was I the only one unaware of this plot? I began to try to pull myself together and listen to what these people had done to Helena. We had to make you come visit this experimenting home. It was the only way we could get sufficient data to work with. These experiments could help many others suffering from the same thing. Martin, Helena had to go to make sure you and others will be safe. Suffering from the same thing? Helena told me anything about anything like this. No wonder she was always so happy. It was to mask the fact that she was a goner from the beginning. What she said to me 2 days ago, that must have been a final goodbye. I felt myself tearing up again, and unbearable pain formed in my chest. It felt like my heart was torn out of my chest, leaving nothing but an empty hole where it once was, where Helena once resided. What? I began to form another painful sentence as my throat dried up. What was she suffering from? Her father looked at everyone and they all nodded. Helena's father grabbed a portfolio from the bookshelf behind him, which held cookbooks and recyclable newspapers. This here contains all the data taken from our research. I think this will do a better job at explaining the whole story rather than hearing it from us. Please give it a look, Martin. He placed it in front of me and I wiped my eyes with my shirt sleeve. Opening the portfolio, whatever was left of my heart sank as the truth was finally revealed to me. Subject name, Martin Stanley Watson. Date of arrival, July 6th, 2013. Diagnosis, schizophrenia. Cause of diagnosis, abusive childhood. Symptoms, reduced social interaction, lack of emotional expression, hallucinations of other people and objects and people. Most reoccurring hallucination is of a young girl the subject has named Helena.